Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my Cedar Point Recreation Park. In the last episode, we finished off the final coaster of the park with Steel Vengeance and worked on the beaches surrounding the peninsula, effectively ending phase 1 of our project. And it is time to move on to the next phase. I talked a little bit about the different parts of the project in the last episode, what they would entail. And phase 2 is supposed to be terrain work, adding different elevation changes to the park in addition to filling out the beaches. And we did the beaches last episode, so I found a topological map of the park, and I went through and I was trying to find some places that it would make sense to add some elevation changes in. And I just wasn't happy with anything that I tried, mostly because the park just isn't built out yet, and there's a lot of roads and paths and things like that, and elevation is going to have a big impact on how those look. And I don't want to kind of shoehorn myself into a certain layout by making the elevation changes up front like this. I just wasn't really happy with the way things were going with it. So I decided we're going to save that for later and move on to phase 3. And if you recall, phase 3 is going to be the flat ride phase, where we're going to be building every ride that isn't a roller coaster, basically. Everything we haven't built yet, we're going to build them all now. So I mentioned also last episode, I have an inventory of every flat ride in Cedar Point, assuming I haven't missed any, which is entirely possible, but all the major ones I've got listed. And by my count, there were about 45 of them. So today we're going to knock out 10 of those, and that's going to be all the flat rides in Kiddie Kingdom. We've already got the 4x4 monster truck ride in there. And way back in episode 7, we started off with a little bit of this in shoestringing the carousel in the midway and shoestringing one of the flat rides in Kiddie Kingdom, just as a little placeholder. And nobody noticed, because apparently no one either cares or knows anything about Kiddie Kingdom. I made several mistakes when I built that little Kiddie Kingdom ride, so I had to destroy it and do it over again. The first mistake was that it was the wrong ride, basically. The street view photos from Google Maps are pretty old, and the ride that was in that location when those street view photos were taken is no longer the ride that's there now. But I did happen to find a walkthrough tour of Cedar Point on YouTube from a few years ago that matched up more closely with the ride list on the website. So I figured out what ride actually goes there. It was also going in the wrong direction. All of these rides go counterclockwise, I believe, and I have that one going. I had my first build going clockwise, so I had to fix that. Not a huge deal, to be honest. So there are 10 carousel rides in Kiddie Kingdom, and they're all basically exactly the same thing. So I was able to do the exact same process for each ride, and at the end of the 10th one, pretty much operating on muscle memory. So at this point, I'm pretty much an expert on making shoestrung carousel rides. They are pretty simple rides to make. The most complicated part of it was making sure that all of my underground track didn't overlap. It's a pretty big mess down there now, because we've got a whole bunch of steel wild mouse track down there for all of our control trains, and it's a big old mess. And I had to just make sure that they were all either not near each other or at different elevations so that the tracks didn't collide. Fortunately, we didn't have any major issues, so things worked out pretty okay. And now we have 10 more people rides in the park, which is pretty exciting. You may notice that there aren't a lot of guests over here, despite us having over 200 guests in the park. And that's because most of those guests are trapped near the bathrooms by the Raptor entrance, because peep pathfinding is still terrible. And they're all just going in a loop in and out of the bathrooms, wondering how to get home. And I'm not going to do anything about it yet, because I'm not really that interested. It is nice to see peeps riding the rides, and a few of them did manage to make it over here and get on some of them, which is pretty exciting. There is a little bit of decoration to do on these as well. A lot of them have roofs on them that I didn't include yet. That's going to be part of the next phase, phase 4, where we're going to be doing all of that station scenery and things like that. So that'll include the flat rides here. Aside from those fences, those are easy enough to put in, and I thought they looked pretty nice. So all in all, not a whole lot to talk about with this episode. It's just nice to get some of this tedious, busy work out of the way. We do have a lot more flat rides to go, and there are some more simple carousels way back in the back of the park near Camp Snoopy, and on the other side of the large building here where Planet Snoopy is. I think there's a couple more of these flat rides. However, there are a couple ones that are going to require a bit more hacking, and we'll be getting to those soon enough. I have to do a little bit more research on actually how to build them, look up some tutorials and things like that, but we'll get to those pretty soon. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed watching me build, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.